as much as 28:11, the deep meaning of Sabbath rest. Exodus 28 to 11 is much deeper than simply don't work on Saturday. It establishes a sacred rhythm. 6 days of labor followed by a seventh day of cessation, remembrance, restoration, and dedication to Sonini Nanini. Exodus 28, open quote, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, close quote. The first word is powerful, remember. The command doesn't merely say observe the Sabbath. It says remember it. That means the Sabbath is something humanity is prone to forget. We can become so consumed with making money, solving problems, accomplishing goals, working, buying, selling, building, and worrying that we forget that life is more than production. The Sabbath interrupts that cycle. Remember who gave you life. Remember that you are more than your labor. Remember that your worth isn't determined by what you produce. Remember to be still. And then, open quote, to keep it holy, close quote. To make something holy means to set it apart, so the seventh day becomes different from the other six. The hidden lesson, the Sabbath teaches, I don't have to be in motion every day to be worthy. You can stop, you can breathe, you can eat, you can read wisdom, you can pray, you can sit with your family, you can contemplate your life, you can simply be. Exodus 29, open quote, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, close quote. Notice that Scripture does not condemn labor. It actually gives labor its proper place. 6 days. Work has a place. Building has a place. Business has a place. Providing has a place. Creating has a place. But work is not supposed to consume the entire human existence. The 6 days represent responsibility. The seventh represents release. This creates a rhythm: work, rest effort, restoration activity, stillness giving, receiving labor, renewal. The problem comes when the 6 days swallow the seventh, when every day becomes open quote, I have to work, close quote, open quote, I have to make money, close quote, open quote, I have to accomplish something, close quote, open quote, I have to keep going, close quote. Sabbath says stop. Exodus 20:10, open quote, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God, close quote. This is where the command becomes especially profound. The seventh day isn't merely your day off. It belongs to Sonini Nanini. That changes the mentality. Instead of, I'm taking a break because I'm tired, the deeper understanding becomes, I am deliberately setting this time apart because life does not belong entirely to my labor. And notice how comprehensive the command is. Open quote, thou nor thy son nor thy daughter, close quote. It extends beyond the individual. The Sabbath creates a household rhythm. Father rests, mother rests, children rest. The household collectively steps away from ordinary labor. This means Sabbath isn't merely personal spirituality. It can become family culture. Exodus 20:10, even the servant. The command continues, open quote, thy manservant nor thy maidservant, close quote. The principle is remarkable. Those who work under you are also supposed to rest. In other words, your productivity does not give you the right to consume another person's entire life. The Sabbath places a boundary around human labor. That is a profound principle of justice. You don't merely rest yourself while demanding that everybody underneath you continue working. Everybody rests. Nor thy cattle. Even the animals are included. That reveals something beautiful. Sabbath is not simply about religious ceremony. It introduces a principle of mercy toward creation. The animals that labor also receive relief. So the Sabbath says, don't build a system where everything beneath you is constantly being consumed. There must be restoration. Exodus 20:11, the foundation. Open quote, for in 6 days Sonini made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, close quote. Now we reach the reason. The Sabbath isn't arbitrary. It is connected to creation itself. 6 days of creation, seventh day of cessation. The human Sabbath therefore mirrors the divine creation pattern presented in Genesis. This gives the seventh day a cosmic meaning. Creation has a rhythm. There is a time to create, there is a time to cultivate, there is a time to labor, and there is a time to cease. And rested the seventh day. The Hebrew concept behind rested is associated with Shabbat, to cease, stop, or desist. That's important. It doesn't require us to imagine that Sonini became exhausted. Rather, the work ceased. That's the deeper Sabbath principle. Sabbath doesn't mean I'm too tired to continue. Sabbath means I deliberately cease. There is tremendous power in intentional cessation. Wherefore Sonini blessed the Sabbath day. This may be the most beautiful part. The seventh day isn't merely commanded, it is blessed. The Sabbath carries a blessing because it creates space for something that constant activity cannot provide. Space for peace, reflection, gratitude, wisdom, family, prayer, renewal, presence. You aren't merely losing a day of work, you're gaining a day of consciousness. And hallowed it. To hallow means to make sacred or set apart. So the Sabbath becomes a sanctified interruption of ordinary life. For 6 days, I participate in the world. On the seventh, I step back from the world and remember what is greater than the world. That's why Sabbath can become a form of spiritual resistance. The world says produce constantly. Sabbath says cease. The world says your value is what you accomplish. Sabbath says your existence itself has value. The world says acquire more. Sabbath says be grateful for what you already have. The world says keep moving. Sabbath says be still. The Abantu Sabbath understanding through the Abantu lens. You can understand Sabbath as a restoration of right relationship. Not merely I can't work today, but I return to balance. My relationship with Sonini Nanini, my self-family creation community is brought back into order. Sabbath therefore becomes a weekly examination. Have I been working without wisdom? Have I allowed money to become my master? Have I neglected my family? Have I neglected my inner life? Have I forgotten gratitude? Have I allowed worldly troubles to dominate my consciousness? Then Sabbath arrives and says, come back. Come back to stillness. Come back to wisdom. Come back to gratitude. Come back to family. Come back to Sonini Nanini. Sabbath in the mind. There is also a metaphysical lesson here. Your body can become accustomed to constant activity. Your mind can become addicted to constant stimulation. Your consciousness can become trapped in work, bills, problems, obligations, worry, sleep, repeat. Sabbath breaks the pattern. It gives the mind permission to say, open quote, nothing needs to be chased right now, close quote. That's why your affirmation from earlier fits Exodus 20 beautifully. I rest, I receive, I reflect, I renew, I am at peace. That is practically a meditation on the Sabbath principle, the 6-in-1 pattern. You can summarize Exodus 28-11 like this. 6 days, seventh day, labor, cease, produce, receive, build, reflect, pursue, be present, accomplish, appreciate, provide, give thanks, engage the world, reconnect with Sonini. The Sabbath doesn't make the 6 days meaningless. It gives the 6 days boundaries, and the 6 days give the Sabbath context. The deepest lesson, Exodus 20:11, is ultimately teaching mastery over your relationship with labor and time. If you cannot stop working, work has become your master. If you cannot sit still, activity has become your master. If you cannot enjoy what you already possess, acquisition has become your master. But Sabbath declares, I am not a slave to the world. For one sacred period, I cease striving. I remember. I give thanks. I restore my mind. I nourish my household. I study wisdom. I commune with Sonini Nanini, and I remember that my life is bigger than what I can produce. Sabbath declaration. I honor the seventh day. I release the burdens of labor. I refuse to make productivity my God. I give my mind permission to become still. I give my body permission to rest. I give my family my presence. I give thanks for what I already possess. I seek wisdom instead of distraction. I remember Sonini Nanini as the source of life. I rest without guilt. I receive without fear. I reflect with wisdom. I renew my strength. I enter the Sabbath in peace. Sabbath Shalom.